Good evening, friends, and welcome to The Pulse. I am David Harris, Jr. Well, friends, everything that you know about Arctic frost. Now, let me remind you, the multi-agency investigation into President Trump and his allies over contesting the legitimacy of the 2020 election. Everything. It was just exposed as a massive web of illegal and unconstitutional moves to undermine a United States presidential candidate. Jack Smith, he actually testified that they had proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Well, today, Senate Republicans revealed bombshell documents that expose that entire investigation for the fraud that it was. A number of President Trump's allies were under surveillance for years, friends, including records of current FBI Director Kash Patel. Jack Smith subpoenaed Verizon for 2 years worth of phone calls, text messages, and financial information. And at that time, Patel was a private citizen. Friends, it didn't stop there. Senator Charles Grassley says that Smith also subpoenaed the phone records for 14 members of Congress. And Jack Smith, the whole time, he knew these wiretaps were illegal. Every single one of their rights violated. Now, the GOP's star witness, Margot Cleveland, she broke down several ways Smith violated the Constitution.
Smith unconstitutionally was appointed special counsel in violation of the Appointments Clause. The subpoenas of the toll records violated the speech or debate clause. The vast and unjustified subpoenas to Republicans and the organizations that were connected to them violated the First Amendment associational rights. The targeting of Trump's attorneys implicates the Sixth Amendment right to counsel. And using prohibited access to bury records is a huge due process violation that raises potential violations of Brady.
Are you kidding me? Friends, Joe Biden's Department of Justice, they did everything they could to get something, anything, to pin on President Trump. But it was all a witch hunt. Now, Senator Ted Cruz, he outlined this perfectly. This, friends, is the modern-day Watergate.
The Biden administration's Arctic frost scheme is not a single act. It is a modern Watergate, trading a break-in at one office for a digital sweep into approximately 100,000 private communications, more than a dozen senators, and thousands of individuals' lives, emails, records, and personal data, toll records, bank records, donor lists, law firm records, and other personal files relating to every major conservative organization were subpoenaed.
Friends, over 40 government officials were indicted, convicted, or jailed over Watergate. So when will the indictments, the convictions, and the jail time start over this? Well, let's bring in our panel, former Trump attorney and author of Defiant, Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Warfare, Christina Bobb, alongside co-host of The Global View and author of Deep State Target, George Papadopoulos. Thank you both for joining The Pulse this evening. Christina, I want to start with you. Let's talk about activist judges who actually helped out Jack Smith. One of them, James Boasberg. Now, this is the same judge who has tirelessly ruled against Trump's administration and his immigration enforcements. New documents reveal that he secretly worked with the special counsel to bring charges against President Trump and his allies. And get this, in court, Smith said lawmakers who knew they would be subpoenaed would try to destroy evidence. Now watch how Ted Cruz responded.
Are you aware of any factual basis whatsoever that a dozen senators will destroy evidence?
I am not, but I will tell you that non-disclosure orders are a routine part of investigations.
Based on facts. Give me any hypothetical fact. By the way, do you know any facts that I will destroy evidence? Let's take it me personally.
I cannot,
Because Jack Smith went into court and said, I will destroy evidence if I know about the subpoena. And this clown signed the order one after the other after the other. Are you aware of any basis? Look, I'm a member of the bar. I take my obligations seriously. The FBI signed off on that. Mike Lee concluded he would destroy evidence. John Kennedy, well, Louisiana, maybe. I will say, I'll give a special dispensation for the great state of Louisiana. But there is no basis.
Christina, I mean, it's baffling. This is bigger than Watergate. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is very scary because you have the judicial branch working hand in glove with special counsel, with parts of the Department of Justice to bring down a political opponent. And it's not just here in D.C. that we're seeing this happen. I'm still a criminal defendant in Arizona, which is a trickle-down case from Arctic frost. So the Arctic frost case, the effects of Arctic frost are not over. They're ongoing. There's still about 60 of us who are still fighting this in state courts, and it all trickled down from that. And we see the same type of interaction happening with state court judges, which is very, very concerning because Americans obviously have a right to a free and fair trial, right to a defense, right to, attorney-client privilege. All of that was thrown out the window with this Arctic frost investigation and just trying to get to Donald Trump, trying to get to Trump's lawyers, trying to get his associates. So I truly believe that as far as domestic policy issues go, this is the most important issue for the Trump administration to handle and to confirm to the American people that we do have justice in the United States. Without this, everything else fails.
Yeah, it's all going to fail, and people need to go to jail. George, now before Arctic frost, there was Crossfire Hurricane and Robert Mueller. And you know firsthand how Obama and the Biden-era DOJ ordered FBI agents to target President Trump. Former senior counterterrorism executive at the FBI, Christopher O'Leary, however, he was recently fired. He's actually speaking out against the Trump administration, saying that they've done generational damage to the Bureau. Watch. All right, well, we don't have the clip, but that's what he's saying. Who has done damage to the FBI, George? And can it actually be resolved? Can it be cured?
Yeah, David, you know who I really think has done the most damage to the FBI? The FBI itself. There's no foreign adversary could have imagined damaging the FBI's integrity and credibility much more so than the FBI itself with its shenanigans and its illegal surveillance and the shredding of the Constitution for political purposes and to go after political opponents, and I would say even more disturbing, dissent writ large. We're not just talking about political opponents or the President of the United States of America. The Democrats basically utilize the levers of power and the intelligence agencies to go after Catholics, school teachers, anyone, MAGA grandmothers, anyone who stood in the way of the Democrat agenda was basically targeted for extermination, prosecuted, persecuted, jailed, bankrupted. And that's ultimately the legacy that the Wray FBI and the Comey FBI have left, and why people like Kash Patel, who are leading the FBI right now, have such a massive job ahead of them to restore the credibility to this once revered institution. Because if we don't trust the FBI, then we don't trust the judicial system, the rule of law, and our system corrupts from within. And that's really why this is such a massive issue, David.
Oh, it's so much corruption. I mean, the amount of exposure on this is it's startling. Christina, the Justice Department is reportedly requesting that the House Intel Committee send them classified interview transcripts related to John Brennan. Now, what might that uncover?
Well, that's fantastic. I love that they're asking for that information. I would also like to point out that the documents that Grassley released came from the Department of Justice, so they already have a lot of the information, and they probably have a lot more that hasn't been released. So they've had it for a while. So they could get information from Brennan on, what he knew and when he knew about all of the witch hunt, the 51 intelligence officers that interfered with the 2020 election, the Russiagate or the Russia hoax, President Obama trying to effectively frame the incoming president in 2016, Donald Trump, to try to mess with his election. So Brennan has a lot of information that could potentially be incriminating of Obama, of Biden, of that whole administration. Now, whether this Department of Justice does anything about it, I think is it's the critical issue, because I love Ted Cruz's clips. He said some really great stuff. He made some really great points. Marsha Blackburn also did earlier today. I saw some of her stuff. There's some really good points that people are making, but no one on the conservative side has actually done anything about it. And that's what needs to happen. And that falls squarely on the shoulders of Pam Bondi and this Department of Justice. So it's great that they've asked for the information, but they better do something with it.
Well, I hope Pam Bondi is watching, because Pam Bondi, things need to happen, heads need to roll, indictments need to come forward, and people need to go to jail, period. George, yep. House Oversight Chairman James Comer, he is demanding answers from the Census Bureau about major errors in the 2020 census. With Democrats working hard against passing the Save America Act, what do you think you'll find there?
Yeah, I think the Save America Act is really the most important piece of legislation in modern American history. I mean, if without election integrity, we really don't have, the president likes to say, without a border, we don't have a country. Without safe and secure elections, we really don't have a democrat process, and we can't function even as a republic. So there is a lot of investigation and scrutiny now into these various irregularities with ballot boxes, with mail-in ballots, with how the last elections were even adjudicated. And that's really why the president and his team and Christina and others were actually targeted, because they were questioning these type of shenanigans and these type of irregularities. And that's really what I think Comer is now looking into at the congressional level, as he should.
Christina, you've had to face a rogue, if you will, DOJ. You've had to face it over everything that's coming out about Arctic frost and how fraudulent it was, how unconstitutional it was. Would you say, if you were Pam Bondi, would you say, from that position as the head of the DOJ, that there's enough information to file indictments and take people to jail?
Yeah. Yes, there's more than enough. I think Pam Bondi's biggest hurdle is not actually accumulating the evidence. I think that's pretty clear on its face. I think her biggest hurdle is the department itself and the people who work there. I mean, you saw the testimony today of an FBI agent who was just recently fired, has been within the department. And many of the agents and many of the prosecutors who worked on the Mar-a-Lago raid and all of this lawfare against Donald Trump still work in the department. And so what are they going to do? Prosecute themselves? They've got to clean out the people who really have been working against President Trump and against the political agenda. They've been working for political purposes rather than for justice. That all has to get cleaned out. And we saw the list that came out today. A large chunk of the whole bureau in Washington, D.C. was focused on these political targets. And so that is her biggest hurdle. How do you lead a department that has been actively working to throw your boss in jail for at least 4 years, likely 10?
It's insane.
So, yes, she can.
It's insane.
She can get
they need to start letting a lot more people go. People need to get fired left and right. Clean slate. Just wipe. Just start over. Do something and start over.
Yep.
It's all the time. Christina Bobb, George Papadopoulos. God bless both you guys. Thanks for joining the Pulse tonight.
Thanks, David.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.